the weirdest thing was, oh no, it is really good because somebody saw your video and they were like, isn't that the same guy that you guys do the podcast with? And I was like, yes, he's actually quite fun, but I know when he gets angry and serious, not to f with it. Yeah,
Two geeks and glasses. That would be us. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm good. I'm going up to Pawhuska today with your former associate, Mr. Kyle.
Ah,
Got some family business stuff we got to take care of up there. So here's some good news.
hmm
Turns out his great grandpa was only the mayor in the 1950s, so he was not there during the terror reign of the 1920s, which is nice to know.
Oh, yeah. Like he's
Yeah,
genocide and weird stuff that white people were doing up there.
a little context always helps, doesn't it? So Pawhuska, Oklahoma is where the Osage Nation or Osage Indians, as they call them in Oklahoma, the place where everybody is, purchased land rather than being put on a reservation. So they were never reservation folks. And unfortunately, when they purchased this land, it was the biggest oil strike, I believe, in America at the time, and the nation shared in it. And so a bunch of people moved in and started killing them to steal their money. I don't believe that was us. Meaning us, no, I'm Irish. I'm first generation American. We had nothing to do with this, but a whole bunch of our people probably did, as
Sean,
usual.
I doubt it was your Irish people. I'm pretty sure that they were still throwing you guys down coal mines and making you lay other things at that point.
Up in the Chinese. So the biggest offender up there was a guy named Burkhart, which is Scottish. And I actually have a customer of mine that is half Osage and half Burkhart. And I'm like,
Mm.
I don't know jokes to make about that. That's such a bad of people. Yeah. How you doing?
We actually got rains for the past couple of days, and I'm guessing for some weird reason it rains the same time in Oklahoma that it rains in Bangalore. You guys
We
get thunderstorms the same days that we get them here.
hey the had some I don't know with us. I think we're at flood stage now just about everywhere. And I don't know if it's the same deal with us. We're pretty flat.
Yeah.
So when it rains like 5 times in 1 week for us, that's not good. We start removing topsoil at that point.
Oh yeah. The red mud starts getting exposed.
Not good. Not good. We only have about 18 inches of topsoil here.
Hmm.
Isn't much. Yeah, this isn't prime farm area unless you're growing weed, which weed grows in dirt pretty well. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way,
Oh,
I did share your video of the jail trust, and a lot of people were fascinated about the way you spoke at the jail trust meeting.
so once again, so let's fill them in a little context in case they're new. So I have been fighting against the county commissioners for Oklahoma County, which is where I live, and the Oklahoma County Jail Trust, which are a fake company put together to run the jail so it could take some of the heat off of the county commissioners. But the
Mhm.
real scam is it's actually Oklahoma City's jail, but they don't have to own their own jail, so they don't have any liability.
No,
Right. It's like a pyramid scheme in reverse.
the Amazon way of saying that this is not my employee. They're just contractors who we have contracted.
And so I've been fighting against these folks. I want people to be educated, and I would like people not to die in jail. I
Yeah.
think those are reasonable things. So once they were having 1.5 to 2 people dying per month, and that's what started everything. And then once they got their handle on that and people quit dying, I quit going to the meetings as I promised I would. You quit killing people, I will quit coming to your meetings. And now they're killing people again, so I had to start going to meetings. So if your friends had never seen it before, I'm sure they were like, "Oh, that dude is crazy. How do I hire him?" Woo.
No, I did have to explain to people that it's something that you've been fighting against for almost 4 or 5 years now.
Right. And so
Orig-
yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I used to tell them, I was like, originally we used to always just laugh at him and he used to go fight these meetings because we'll be like, why did you pick this hill to die on, Sean?
So here's the thing, and I really mean this, and I'll try to say this without getting weird. So I had two aunts that were nuns, believe it or not, in Leavenworth, Kansas, and they did prison ministry. So I have always had this weird attraction to the subject matter. And what I mean by that is you think of the people that nobody goes to visit, nobody gives a shit about, and nobody really and truly cares if they call you on the holiday because you're mad at them.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have no protections and they lose all their civil rights. Donald Trump, if he goes to jail, is going to learn what the Constitution is about. And this is where it matters. They do have some rights, but a lot of them are forfeited if they're felons, especially. But in county jail, you are rarely convicted, but you are treated like the worst of the worst convicts when literally only 10% of the people there have been convicted of a crime. Isn't that amazing?
Oh, wow.
And we treat them like dog shit. It's astounding. So all I'm trying to do is just make sure it isn't like they have to be in a nice hotel, but it can't be a rat, cockroach, bed bug infested hotel with spoiled food because we think they may have committed a crime.
Oh, so these are basically those people who are chucked into like that type of prison just because they couldn't afford bail and things like that, correct?
They're poor. Right.
Oh, my roundabout way of not saying poor.
Whenever anybody gives me any trouble about it, I go, I don't know about that book you all claim you read all the time, but in that book, it says we're supposed to be visiting these folks. So, and I am. Yeah, I know. How's that for ironic?
I swear.
Exactly. We can't go to silence while you're thinking.
Oh no, I honestly was just thinking about like the next question for the sole reason that I know that there's a lot more context to this and what you guys do, because I do know that they were trying to build a new jail and trying to squeeze that through when this current one is apparently an efficient killing machine.
Yeah. And truthfully, I'm not sure they don't think that's a good thing. Because what they say, they shouldn't have been there anyway. And you go, you arrested them is why they were there. They didn't volunteer.
So this is like the deserve to die theory.
Right. It really and truly, it's being in the Bible Belt. For people not in the US, you have to understand there's an area in the southern part of the United States that are the most Christian professing people I've ever seen. But the behavior does not match the preaching. I'm almost like they're mean in Jesus's name. Which is an oxymoron.
Don't you think that this is more literally the holier than thou thing, where that's more what they're leaning toward, where they just think that they're better because they're religious, so they don't have to give a shit about people who they think are sinners, I guess, so to speak?
Yep. Hate the sin. You don't have to hate the sinner. And it's a mentality here I've never grown accustomed to. But here's what happened. So they got $50 million from the federal government, and they were able to use it towards anything except a prison. So they tried to figure out a way to put a mental health facility in with the prison and make that work and all this. And my group of friends are like, no, keep the mental health facility separate so regular people can use it too, years ago. So in the meeting yesterday, I was a little hard on them. I think that's fair to say. Nobody wants your shitty jail.
You have entertained a lot of people around the world.
Hey, you know what? It's okay to speak like that to people that don't deserve better. Literally. So at the end of the meeting, they took a vote to separate the mental health facility from the jail. And I don't think it was only because I was there, but it might have had something to do with it because, they throw me a bone, buddy, or I'll be back next month and I'll be back next month and I'll be back next month. And so let me ask you this, because you've watched me do this for years and have been puzzled by my behavior like many people. I I've had one person describe it really well, and they said, no, you're just really passionate about your politics, and you show up and actually do something. So none of us know what to say because no one shows up to do anything. They just complain.
Hmm.
And I go, oh, okay. But the thing is, did you think that was a horrible takedown? Knowing the preface of everything, knowing the background, knowing how many, we're at 50 people that have died under their control. Was I lying saying some other city doesn't want you to move your crappy, shitty jail to their city because it's a shitty jail? So it was the worst jail in America 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So am I out? Tell me the truth. I'm okay. I can take it.
To be honest with you, I think it was a fair assessment of what they've done thus far, considering the number of lives lost and considering the number of times you've gone to these meetings and told them people are going to start dying if you'll keep doing this, and they kept continuing to do this. Some of them used to sit on those board meetings while you're talking, playing on their phone, never looking up, acknowledging you, none of that. Like, that's not like what public officials are technically supposed to do, are they? Are these public officials, or do they think that they're above that and that's why they behave that way? Like, beyond reprimand or beyond any consequences. So they don't even respect the people who come to speak to them, which is why over the years, your tone and cadence has gotten slightly harsher. It's their own doing. It wasn't like the first meeting you went, you were shouting like this. This is after like so many people have died is when you started getting a little bit more stern in your tone, so to say.
They gerrymandered their districts so bad that all three can stay in that job for 30 or 40 years.
Now, wow. Is it like a lucrative position that they just sit there without any show of remorse? Like, what are they getting out of it?
About $130,000 a year plus full benefits, so maybe $150,000 a year. In Oklahoma, that's a lot of money.
No, yeah.
In California, it's not. But here, you could live in a nice suburban sprawl house and drive a nice car, and that's kind of the level. That's how we gauge success here.
Yeah,
I think that's fair. I'm not cutting anybody down saying that that's the American dream of this part of the country.
Yeah.
So the question is, when we showed up yesterday, or 2 days ago, it was the same BS. So they delayed the meeting for an hour to talk to their attorneys to see if some of the press would leave. They thought we were going to leave. We have never left. The press has never left. And we all just sat there going, you're just going to make us meaner. Same exact MO of the school board folks who do the same BS. And you go, have you not learned by now? Study your enemy. I mean, literally, if the same people show up every time, they are your enemy. Study them. Study what your enemy does. Study how your enemy reacts. And so at the end of the meeting, they had to do something really brazen so I didn't make it onto the news. So if you don't make it onto the news, make a cause that makes it on the news, right? I think that's fair.
Yeah, PR 101.
They voted to separate the mental health facility. So now Del City, this small struggling town, has an opportunity to get a $50 million mental health facility, which the citizens could use, which nobody's afraid of, and you probably could employ 150 or 200 people there. And that all happened in one meeting.
Oh, wow.
Right. So I'm okay with it.
Some of the times, don't you think that the amount of time they spend plotting and prodding about how not to get you guys to speak, if they use that same amount of time just to do their damn job, they might be able to get you all not to speak by just fixing certain things?
My thing would be this: as you go, if nothing else, you have to listen to everybody at the table and acknowledge what they say. And so there's a rule in some political circles that if you're on the dais, the place where they sit, you're not supposed to talk to the people. You're not supposed to talk. It's not real. It's a fake rule. When I was on city council dais and I'm the vice mayor, whichever job I held at the time, I talked to everybody that spoke. I want them to know I heard them.
Yeah.
That they want to know they were heard. You just go, hey, we're looking at separating that. We haven't figured out how to do it yet.
Yeah.
If you have ideas, send it to me on paper instead of yelling at me at the meeting. And you go, okay, I will. I mean, but it's all about a money grab. So the other part of this, without boring everybody talking about a county jail, but it was the worst one in America, so it's worth talking about. So they did this fake bond. Okay, if everybody doesn't know what a bond is, most big things in government are bought with a bond. GO bond, general obligation bond. GO bond is what they're called. So you go out and raise money, which is relatively easy because they're middlemen that do it for you. And then you have money to do this. Well, the way you keep from ever saying you did a tax increase is by when a bond expires, the same time it expires, you use it for something else. And you've done a tax increase without anybody getting mad at
you. Okay.
With raising your taxes, we built a new jail. Well, it's all fake and lies, but everybody generally believes in it because they don't see an increase in their taxes.
Isn't
so they did
the drug dealer's model of getting you addicted to something and slowly hiking up the price without you noticing.
Heroin of government. So these guys get a $250 million bond to build this jail, and they get all of these well-known people in the city to go, it's time for a new jail. We need a new jail. The old jail had people dying. Well, if you were at the old jail, they don't stop dying at the new jail because it's your personnel who are just going to the new jail, right? So they get the bond to go through. People fell for it. They softened their hearts for a minute. We're like, we really probably should finally give them a new jail. Well, we kept saying it's going to cost you $1 billion and you're only raising $250 million.
Okay.
And exactly right. So they don't have money for the jail. Everybody argues about where they're going to put it. And I go, they don't have any money. Hey, my hands up over here. They don't have any money. They're lying. And once again, they need $400 million up front. Now, that doesn't even cover the interest. As you well know, you're a finance guy. If you borrow $150 million, you're going to pay another $400 million in interest at least. And money's not free. So as of right now, all of these fights are happening. All of this stuff is happening. They don't have a place to put jail because no one wants the shittiest jail in America. Nobody wants people to run the shittiest jail in America, even living in their communities. They don't want them.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the solution is at this point, other than fix the old jail, which we've given plenty of opportunities to. But the 3 or 4 families that run our city want the old jail out of downtown because that's where they own property and downtown has prospered. So they want to take the jail down so you don't have to look at it. Even though it's a nice looking jail.
Don't have to look at that ugly ass building. I know that feeling. But the other difference is that they probably put up a hotel or something there. Someone's bound to make some money out of that real estate once that jail is removed from there.
So the property in Del City, the commissioner from Edmond took more than the allotted amount of money from that guy during his campaign, and they've been friends since childhood. And magically, that's the one they chose.
Oh, wow.
It's just layers and layers and layers of wet diarrhea. It's not layers of poop, wet diarrhea. And then it kind of settles, and then they do it again on top. And so for somebody like me, who I know this sounds crazy to people that I waste my time with this stuff, to me, it's important. And to very few other people is it important. So I'm not really costing anybody anything.
Yeah.
Just looking for a more humane solution, as that big book suggests. How we treat people in jail matters. That really famous book.
Is that allowed in the library, or have they banned that on too at this point?
Well, if you really read the Old Testament, it wouldn't be allowed in the library. But we'll talk about a lot. They've not actually. You and I had to study it in school. We know.
Yeah.
These guys do a lot of talking, but not reading. So, I mean, that's kind of where we are on it. And did it? I mean, when I walked in, honest to God, all the news people are like, "Uh-oh, oh shit." I don't know. Is that good or bad? You know what I mean?
The weirdest thing was, oh no, it is really good because somebody saw your video and they were like, isn't that the same guy that you guys do the podcast with? And I was like, yes, he's actually quite fun, but I know when he gets angry and serious, not to fuck with it.
I think for what I also want people to see is that they can do this. You don't have to take this stuff from your elected officials in America.
Yeah.
In America, we have the right to go do this. You might get jailed in other countries.
In other countries, please don't try this at home type disclaimer.
Yeah. Check it. How sad is it that we have to say that, man? I mean, so I grew up with really, really well-educated priests and nuns as my aunts and uncles. And most people did not grow up this way. And they would have these arguments and debates over civil rights in our kitchen at our house with my parents and friends and all this other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know how to fight a little better in those circumstances than most people.
Mm-hmm. You've probably learned from the OGs of these kind of fights, right?
Because most people, if you haven't spoken in front of city government, you get up and you want to be polite and you want to say your stuff. And what I have found is what you really need to do is get on the news, because the news causes the phone calls to those guys, which cause a level of pressure that is uncomfortable. And I am in the unique position as an old white guy that I know most of the power players in our city. And they see me on the news and they go, well, if he says people are dying, they're dying. He's been right on everything for the last 5 years. So then they call their friends and go, why are you not doing what he says?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I know. I'm not powerful, but I have the ability to wash something off with a power sprayer.
Yep, elegantly put.
I'm the Stephen Cole Oklahoma politics.
Yeah. Do you think, Shad, I wanted to ask you this yesterday when I heard your entire talk to them. I was like, do you think that they even understand if you went there and said, good afternoon, I find you all inadequate thus far? would they understand the insult that weighs, or is it just me who will find that super insulting?
No, they would not. So there is a distance. What happens is, so you've met drug dealers in America. I don't know what they're like in India, but the way you catch a drug dealer is they get big that their ego gets them. It isn't the selling of illegal items that gets their ego. They think they can't buy. I've got literally a guy who's trying to buy land from his best friend that gave him too much money, which is illegal during a campaign. I've got a woman up there that gerrymandered my wife's own city out from under her so she could stay in her position.
Oh, yeah, I remember this.
Yeah, she's one, and it's a Democrat. I mean, they're as awful to each other as Republicans are. And then there's Brian Mon, who's been there for 30 years, who takes no responsibility for any of this failure. And it's all on him. All of it.
Yeah.
I mean, 30 years, for God's sakes, man. So they have that, what I call the cocaine complex. They're like, I'm untouchable, bro. What are you going to do to me? And, they've gerrymandered it. They've used a law to their favor, so you can't get rid of them. It's fascinating. And people always go, God, politics are so corrupt. And I go, no, they're really not. There's a few corrupt people in politics, and that's all you hear about. There's a whole bunch of lefts that go to work that are perfectly fine looking out for your best interest.
To be honest with you, it's the quiet ones who are getting shit done and keeping everything running in the background are people you never hear about because they're just some cog in the machine. You hear about all these overinflated idiots who show up, try to scam the system. Those are the ones you constantly keep hearing about, too.
And they are the ones that want the sunlight, that they don't blaze of the fire of the sunlight. So if you're in the sunlight, you're going to get a sunburn sooner or later. And if you're purposely putting yourself out there, you're going to get burned, especially if you're doing illegal. Look, if you're doing illegal stuff. So, when I'm on council people would approach you with ideas, and I'd go, hey, the only thing I can do is put you in front of the council, and you can tell them about it, and then we can take a vote.
Yeah.
That's almost too easy, isn't it?
Yeah, too easy. Also, I did want to tell you that your sunburn analogy works only for white people. For me, I just get a few shades darker.
You know what? That's fair. That's fair. I was thinking about myself on that one.
I know.
So look at the big part of it is politics aren't that hard. You do have to, like, if you said, hey, I want to do this, I'd call my people and go, hey, does this sound like something we want to look at?
Mm-hmm.
And then if there's somebody else who has the opposite view, we hopefully get both of you in the room at the same time. And then you guys got to each present your case. The best salesman usually wins because, you know, you've only got 3 or 5 minutes to sell your deal. Mm-hmm. And most people won't show up and do all that stuff. So there were a couple of guys there that looked like white supremacists with face tattoos and all the other stuff, fresh out of prison, you know, physique. And they were opening a wedding venue.
Nice.
Yeah.
Either a brilliant wedding venue or a brilliant way to launder money.
Straight out of Ozark, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
Straight out. Yeah. And if for no other reason, I would have gone to the place to see that and go, did you not know a lawyer to send instead?
That is true, right?
Right.
There are a few people that I have run into in India in recent years who also have face tattoos. I really don't know why.
Yeah. It's a job ender. Mm-hmm. And wedding venue thing doesn't match. The drapes don't match the carpet.
Before you say anything, that is not going to be the title of this episode.
It should be. So I know we're probably finishing up here. So let me throw a couple of ideas out there for people who listen to this stuff. So there's nothing wrong with watching some YouTube videos of city council or state meetings. Most of them are boring as heck. They all open up the same way, and you just want to be comfortable with what happens. And then they let the public speak for about 3 minutes. And initially, have ChatGPT write your speech and just go up and read it. And so you get over the nervousness. I am a person that gets more energy from an audience. Other people would rather have their teeth pulled than be in front of an audience. So maybe if you have a friend that's more comfortable speaking, they should go speak for you and you could write it for them. Delivery, you know, believe me, they had to do that vote at the end of that meeting or I was going to own the news with the bleeps and everything. So they circumvented me by doing that, by giving me exactly what I wanted 5 years ago.
Yeah, that's the weird part. Mm-hmm. No.
Crazy. All right. Hey, we're going to head to Pawhuska today, so this should be interesting. So we may talk about this next week. We'll see what we come up with. You and your protege, Kyle.
Hell yeah. Tell him to make me proud, damn it.
Well,
my first employee intern in Oklahoma, and it's Sean's son, in case anyone's wondering why I keep picking on him.
So he has done very well for himself. So whatever laziness and productivity combination you taught him has paid off well. Mm-hmm. But he is in the middle of trying to reformulate these companies that his grandfather owned that were all very, very successful with mineral rights and oil rights and all this other stuff that his mom had no interest in. Zero.
Okay.
So you are literally going back 40 years trying to see still own, what rights do you still have, where's the money, who's been making the money that weren't giving you your share. He's did a pretty diligent job, but although it is filling up part of my garage, which I'm uncomfortable with. But, yeah. So kudos to you for teaching him, how to work the internet. But he could come out. He's going to come out well out of this anyway because he found a bunch of stuff that nobody knew existed. And but if he could tally it all in a working like ladder, for lack of a better word, things that aren't much money versus things that are, and you focus on the right thing, don't trip over dollars to get to pennies. He should come out fairly well.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Leave it at that.
I'm pretty sure he's got that figured out. Fingers crossed.
He's got that ball game figured out. All right, my man. I gotta go literally turn my bread in the oven.